First, you may have seen in the news, big news today on Intel. The company is scrapping plans to build a $700 million mega lab on its Jones Farm campus in Hillsboro. The company announced the mega lab last spring and said it would study new ways to cool down data centers. The company put out a statement today that reads in part, "As we accelerate our strategy and respond to the current demand environment, we are looking to reduce costs and increase efficiencies through multiple initiatives. This includes exploring more cost-effective real estate options to consider our data center R&D work in Oregon." In other words, the land was too expensive. Although it's kind of hard to imagine them finding cheaper land than the land they already own at Jones Farm, but okay. The tech world in general is facing some headwinds right now. Intel announced last October they would cut $3 billion in costs this year, so I guess that $700 million helps out. I pointed out because Intel is the largest private employer in Oregon with 22,000 workers, and what happens with that company matters to all of us. But regardless of what's happening in the moment, Oregon leaders are focused on the future, and they have been since last summer when Intel announced it would invest $20 billion in Ohio. Ohio? Yes, Ohio. That's where a state government aggressively courted the company and made the expansion there easy. So now Oregon has a joint committee in the legislature made up of senators and representatives, Republicans and Democrats, who all sound eager to help high-tech expand here in Oregon. They're looking to make changes in the state as well. They're also going to ask the federal government for money under the CHIPS Act, which is designed to help lure high-tech expansion here in America.
This committee is important to me because, like my colleagues have said, I'm very interested in bringing back manufacturing to the state of Oregon and making us a state of making things so.
And I'm on this committee because I spent my career in manufacturing. I'm an engineer by degree. I had a factory automation and control systems business. And I want to see America make stuff. We can't just be the people that thinks of it. We got to make it.
At this table next to Senator Hansel, I represent the largest district, most of Umatilla County, all of Union County, and all of Wallowa County in the northeastern part of the state. It's really important to me to be on this committee because Oregon needs to be at the forefront of the semiconductor business. And what better time than now for us to get busy and get doing it? And Eastern Oregon would love to have it situated on our side of the state.
My family has been involved with, my brother's an electronic engineer, worked at Hewlett-Packard, also did a lot of contracting work with Intel and some of the equipment that they did there. So I know how important it is for providing really good family wage jobs, and I look forward to getting us across the finish line to spend some of those federal dollars and those investment dollars and really bring some really good jobs to Oregon.
I am always super happy to spend federal dollars. And this is going to, really we need to maximize the investment that the federal government is putting out here under the CHIPS Act. And so I'm really happy to be here to try to figure out how Oregon can continue to grow its manufacturing.
So pretty clear there that high-tech has more than a few friends on that committee. Earlier this week, the lawmakers held their first meeting. They heard a presentation from Duncan Wise. He's the president of the nonprofit Oregon Business Council. He reported back the findings of the Oregon Semiconductor Task Force. It had a few basic findings. Oregon needs to set aside 2 parcels of land that are at least 500 acres and ready to be developed for a semiconductor company. The state also needs several more smaller plots of land. The state also needs about $500 million that can be used to build the infrastructure needed on that land, along with incentives to lure companies and help with environmental regulations that might block them. But wait, there's more. What about workers? Adrienne Bennings, the president of Portland Community College, said community colleges will need more funding as well to help train those high-tech workers.
In order for us to stay competitive and set Oregon up for success, we have to build the capacity of community colleges because we are a key component in this ecosystem of mobility, of opportunity, and economic prosperity. And when we talk about shared prosperity, we each have a shared responsibility. And so I think it's important to drive that home in terms of the advanced manufacturing programs to help meet the industry's large and growing demand.
And then there's the question of incentives, also known as money or cash up front or tax breaks that help persuade the companies to expand in Oregon. Here's an example of the need. These are images sent to us by a company called Microchip Technology. Their headquarters are in Arizona, but their largest operation is in Gresham. An executive told the lawmakers they have 900 employees and 300 contractors, and they plan to hire 250 more employees over the next 2 years.
I just want to emphasize the importance on incentives, and I'll give you one just fact as a consideration, not only to take advantage of the CHIPS Act, but to recognize that we have some competitive challenges facing us. And one of the comparisons that we did in looking at building a new fab for Microchip compared a new fab in Arizona with a new fab in Gresham. The exact same company did the analysis. Mortensen did this for us. And the fab cost 16% more to build just the clean room itself in Oregon compared to Arizona. That's one of the challenges that we should look at, saying, how do we build incentives that help overcome this disadvantage?
He said that Oregon's seismic rules for new buildings and the cost of labor are the difference in that 16%. All right. So we can see there are some very specific things that Oregon needs to do if we want to remain the Silicon Forest with lots of tech companies here. But the elephant in the room, the thing that will affect all of us, is where the land comes from. It'll likely mean the beloved urban growth boundary around our cities will need to be expanded or dramatically changed.
The reality, I hate to say it, is people don't wait. They just, the site selectors have told us there's no land. They're not even looking at Oregon. We know we've lost some big projects. All these are on non-disclosure, so I don't actually know them, but I've been told by people who do that we have missed opportunities in the last 2 to 3 years. We need to end that. So land availability is a very, very big deal, and that's probably going to be a longer-term question that the legislature is going to have to deal with.
Now, some of us love the urban growth boundary. After all, it's the reason you can drive 30 minutes, not in rush hour, but 30 minutes normally from Portland and be in farm fields or forests, not endless housing developments that go on and on and on. But it also forces cities to be more tightly packed while preserving the open land outside of them. Is that sustainable? One lawmaker wanted to know where all the homes would be built for all the new jobs that would come in with all those new tech operations.
The amount of homes that we would need for the workers that would come in on the jobs. And the reason why I ask is we're talking about land use for manufacturing. I sit on housing and homelessness, and we're going to have a very difficult discussion on what our land use policies are, and are we able to unlock some of those areas within the GBUs and have the ability to put housing there. Because if we don't have housing, we're not going to be able to attract businesses because there's no place to live or it's not affordable to live.
Yeah. The land use system in some ways is one of the jewels of our state. I mean, I think it's made it a very special place. It is 50 years old, and we need to take a look at it, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying that's this committee's job, but I hear your point. We hear it on housing. We hear it on industrial land. I think we need to find ways to make it flexible to respond to the ever-changing needs in a growing population.
So we'll be watching that. What do you think about all this, by the way? Should the urban growth boundaries be abandoned to bring in more big tech? It would sure take advantage of all that federal money that's up for grabs. Or should things stay the way they are right now, where companies often ignore Oregon because there's just a lack of land and all the red tape? Let us know, will you? Send an email to thestory@kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090.